Hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio right here in Washington, D.C., or on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and of course, I am so glad that you're here with us. We've got a fantastic show, and of course, because we have a fantastic show, we have a fantastic co-host with us. And today it's with Teresa Greco. Hey, Teresa.
Good morning, everyone. Hi.
So Teresa, I'm so glad that you're back. You've been on vacation and doing some other things, and so I'm glad that you're back with us. What have you been up to? What's been going on? I know you took a nice little vacation, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that, Brian. Yes, my family and I, we went to Cancun, Mexico. And for
Ooh.
those of you that remember, I'm up here in Canada, in Toronto. So the winter is a little harsh up here, so it is always so nice to get away to the heat.
Mm, mm, mm,
The
mm, mm.
sunshine, where there's color instead of just drab gray. There's no sunshine here. It's just overcast every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
So
I
it's
I love it there. We've taken a couple of trips to Cancun and um it really never disappoints. I mean, there's sometimes where it can be a couple of days of rain or something like that, but it's typically here it's like tropical. It'll come and go, right?
yeah, we didn't have any rain the whole week. It was
Oh,
just
nice.
sunny and colorful. Like it's just I'm like, wow, you just don't realize how much you miss it until you're back and it's like, oh, I can't wait for the summer. But the time the time change happened this weekend, right?
Yeah.
That
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's
which is
right.
which is nice.
Right, right, right. So it's Spring Forward happened on Sunday. So we want to welcome everybody. Hopefully, I think you're in the United States. They've been talking about eliminating it. So we'll see if they
I
do
would love
that.
that.
Yeah, me too. I I
Mhm,
I I think so too.
mhm.
Listen, we've got a great hot topic today that we're going to talk about in just a second. Before we begin, I want to remind our listeners, listen, we want your questions, your comments, your thoughts about our topic today. Don't be shy. This is an interactive conversation. Just post your those things to our chats on either YouTube or Facebook, and we'll do a shout out to you. Listen, Teresa, I love today's topic, but I wanted, and we're going to be talking about the unique power of empathy today.
Yay.
And but I wanted to begin this in context with a little story from one of four stories from an article that was part of what is that thing part? It was part of an article called "I Still Matter: Four Stories About Empathy." And this is from the title story, so I'm going to read this real quick because I thought it'd be a nice way to begin today. Um, and this title story is I'm still here. The story goes, a caretaker in a recent training of mine told the following story. She worked in a setting that cares for persons with dementia. She shared that a lady she supports with dementia was at a medical appointment. The lady's daughter was with her at the appointment, and the doctor carried on for quite some time and dispensed an inordinate amount of diagnostic observations, medical terminology, and advice to the daughter. And then the mother waited patiently for this very learned physician to finish. He then asked the daughter if she had any questions about her mother's situation. Then the mother interrupted and said, "I'm still here. So now that you told my daughter all that stuff, will you please tell me?" I mean, wow. I kind of when I read that particular story, Teresa, I was like, you know, how many times have we seen that kind of happen
Mhm.
where um specifically with our you know parents who are elderly and that kind of thing where they may have a certain condition and that kind of thing, and physicians will talk directly the to the family, but they won't talk to the actual patient or won't refer to the patient directly. And I thought that that would be a good start because, you know, the stories are good about empathy and from a heart space trying to connect with people. And so, I thought like, wow,
Mhm, mhm.
you
And
know,
interestingly enough, that was me just last week. That
wow, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was exactly. I was like, oh yeah, I was there. Same thing that I brought my mom to see
Mm,
a specialist, and um, but in my particular case, my mom uh, she appreciates having one of us there because we're able to ask particular questions that don't necessarily come to her in the moment.
mhm,
So
mhm,
and we have certain questions that when she goes alone, it's like, Mom, what about this? What about that? And then she's
mhm.
like, oh,
Right, right,
and then we're
right.
left hanging.
Exactly.
We're left
Exactly.
hanging. But I agree that it would have been nice for the doctor to also address the patient in this case to say, oh, do you have any questions? Or, we're here talking about you, but we're not really acknowledging you in this moment. So
Right. I know we were talking about this earlier and about like just empathy in general. Why do you think empathy is important? What in your own life experience?
Well, I think people get this mixed up between empathy and sympathy.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think empathy is really the ability to emotionally understand what other people are feeling,
Yeah.
being able to see things from their point of view,
Mhm.
and imagining yourself in their place. So, ultimately it's putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and not just on a mental level, but really feeling what they're feeling. And that's the
Yeah.
key thing here, because we know that with our emotional self and our heart is how we're really connecting to the oneness of everybody, not on our mental level, on the logical, rational level, on
Right.
the heart level is where we're really able to feel what the other person's feeling, because energetically we're all one.
I love that. Wow, and that's why I wanted to let everybody know that this is one of the reasons why we call this the unique power of empathy, where when you're able to emotionally understand what someone else is going through or seeing things from their perspective, you uniquely connect with yourself at the same time. Because as
Mhm.
you just said, Teresa, we are all one. And, you know, empathy is one of those things I think that is so powerful in that it's an immediate kind of universal response tool, right? So what you put out comes back. So when
Mhm.
you connect with someone else from an empathetic, heart, there's an immediate response to that where you literally feel, I don't know, have you felt like that warm kind of sensation in your heart when you do that?
Yeah, I usually start
Yeah.
crying. I'm very
Yeah.
emotional, like anyone that knows me, and
Yeah.
and
You're like
often
me.
as soon as I connect to that energy that you're talking about, it elicits tears for me, and so I immediately feel what the other person's feeling, and I'm an empath,
Right.
in that way too. So I feel it even more than just understanding the situation. It's like, no, I can feel your pain. I can feel your sadness, and so yeah, it usually brings tears to me because that's what happens.
Yeah, we're both crybabies. I have that I have a badge of honor. Yes, I am a crybaby. Um
It's you connected to your feminine energy. There's no
Mm, mm.
shame in that.
And,
Yeah.
and so I want to let people know too that there's three different types of empathy. There's effective empathy that involves the ability to understand another person's emotions and respond appropriately. There's somatic empathy, which involves having a physical reaction in response to someone else's experience. So, so Teresa, you just said that when not only when you connect with someone emotionally, that typically you have tears, there's this physical reaction to it. So
Mhm.
that's the somatic part of that. And then the cognitive empathy involves being able to understand another person's mental state and what they might be thinking in response to a situation. So there's like a higher mind kind of piece to this as well. That when you experience all three with someone, it's a powerful, powerful, powerful experience.
Mhm.
Um, I love the fact that you brought up the difference between empathy, sympathy, and compassion.
Mhm.
And what I've learned in my own experience has been compassion and sympathy are more passive.
Mhm.
I really feel for you. Um, um, I can't, like if someone had a loved one that just passed,
Mhm.
and you've never experienced that before, or it was a unique situation, you would
Mhm.
literally say to them, I can't imagine what you're going through. I'm here for you if you need it. That kind of thing, where you're expressing compassion and empathy. you know Empathy is a little different, right?
Mhm.
Where it's an active attempt to understand another person's
Mhm.
situation, pain, and that kind of thing. um do you remember, Teresa, like, I mean, you just talked about your mom and being in the hospital, but do you remember, like, we were talking about preparing for this show, like a particular personal kind of story that you've had around that?
It's just more that, well, one of the things that I think is of concern around empathy is that I think less and less people have it.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
yeah,
why I really wanted to talk about it. And, it
yeah.
initially came up when the earthquake happened in Turkey, and that
Mhm.
when there are events that are not, hitting us directly, like close to home, and it's more abroad, how do we connect to those situations?
Right.
How can we be empathetic to those that, are far? Maybe it is family that's so far. How can we still connect with them?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because in those situations, those people are they're in a different country. They're going through something different that a lot of us have not experienced an earthquake, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that we can't dynamically and even spiritually show empathy and be active in trying to understand what they're going through emotionally, right? So thanks for that. Why don't we take that on when we come back, right? Everyone, we're going to take another quick break. Well, a break for first break for our show today, and we're going to be talking more about empathy in about 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Hi there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So, how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined by my co-host, Teresa Greco. This is Brian Johnson, and we're talking about the unique power of empathy today. Teresa, you have such a big heart, and I love the fact that when we were on together, we had the show with Shauna from France 24, reporting live from the earthquake in Turkey. And one of the first questions that you asked her was about this. Like, you know, here you've got, almost 100,000 people that have, that are gone, right?
It was huge
It
devastation.
was a huge devastation.
Mhm.
And, how do we feel about that? I mean, yeah, we feel bad, but how do we feel about the people that are there, that are living and have to go on?
And I think understanding the details around how they are, like how
Yeah.
do they move on? How are they experiencing things like in the moment,
Hmm.
versus just in the big picture.
Right.
And I think, that's really where empathy steps in that it doesn't, as you said, it doesn't necessarily require us to have had that same experience in order to be empathetic.
Right.
That's the key actually around empathy, is that we don't have to require that, firsthand experience to actually know what those people are going through. But if you pick the situation apart, guaranteed there are parts of that you can relate to. Guaranteed that there was fear. And I'm like,
Right.
who can't connect to that? That
Right.
there's sadness, that there's loss.
Hmm.
And, we were really going deep with her in all of that they had no shelter. They had
Right.
food. Like,
Right.
were there ever times in your own life where you experienced particular emotions that could be similar to that, and to really feel into those emotions, to
Hmm.
connect to the person that you're talking to, or the
Yeah.
situation that
I
you're looking at.
I love that. I love that. And it's, I'm sure that we all could, again, this is the active part of it, right, Teresa, where you are envisioning yourself where that person is and what they're going through, and really deeply, actively trying to understand it.
Mhm,
And maybe letting that lead you to actions and maybe a support of them, right? Um, because I mean, I there was a story that was just on France 24, I think last week, because I watch a lot of international news, and they had one of those families where this woman, her and her, I think her husband, and a couple other family members were living in one of the tents supplied by the UN's relief, organization.
mhm,
And she was saying that, people were asking her, well, why don't you, you know, get out of here and go to another part of Turkey where maybe you'll be more comfortable. And she said, this is my home.
mhm,
She said, as long as I'm with my family, and and we're on our land, then I'm home and I'm good.
mhm,
I was like, wow.
mhm. And for me, that response would be one that maybe we wouldn't connect to, right? So another part
Right.
of empathy is that when somebody expresses maybe a comment that, people are seeing it from one point of view and she's like, no, like this is my home, I want to stay, like it's, we're going to manage somehow, is to not judge. So
Right.
empathy really includes that particular step that maybe as someone is expressing what they're going through and you may not agree with it, is to stay out of judgment and
Mhm.
still accept the person for what they're feeling and what they're going through.
Isn't that the, getting into, like, mastery of empathy? Where, because I love the fact that you just brought in the judgment part, right? Because I think a lot of times, you know, especially when we may not agree with a person's decision around a certain
Mhm,
circumstance, but it may be emotional for them,
mhm.
um, staying out of judgment keeps us in empathy and understanding that person and what they're going through, right?
Yeah,
How in the heck do we do that? How do we
and
do that?
and I think that if we live our life as the observer,
Mhm. Mhm.
then a lot of situations in life is one that, we want to try to be impartial. We just
Right.
want to observe that which is happening and not have an opinion and not have a judgment of it being
Mhm.
good or bad, right or wrong, yes or no, where, we live in a world of duality and polarities. And so
Mhm.
we feel like we need to be on one side or the other. And
Right.
and really it doesn't need to be like that. And when we can be more impartial and without judgment is where we can, I think, find more peace.
Woo. I'm glad we picked this topic today. Because it's true again, and you're bringing it back to that unique power of empathy, right? Where as you practice it, as you go through this ongoing process of learning how to master it, the unique benefit of it is that you get in tune with yourself and how you're feeling about different situations, and you're learning how to be even closer to your loved ones because of it, because you're being this observer, right? That's not
Mhm,
in judgment of them, that's just fully accepting of who they are
mhm,
and what they are meant to be on this path.
mhm.
All our paths are different, right? Um,
Yeah.
woo, you're on fire today, Teresa. Welcome back. Listen, we're gonna take another quick break. But when we come back, I wanna, talk about, whether or not we are highly empathetic people, right? How do we know if that's what we're practicing? So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. We come back with more of This Morning with Soulivity in about a couple of minutes.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So, tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. We are talking about the unique power of empathy today. And we want to find out whether or not you are an empathetic person. Teresa, you think you're an empathetic person?
Huge. I consider
Huge,
myself an empath. So
huge. Oh yeah, I think I am too. But again, we've got a whole bunch of different articles that we're pulling from. This one is from the verywellmind.com, and the name of the article is "What is Empathy?" And they give a couple of listings of signs of whether or not you're an empathetic person. So one of them is, and I'm going to give like the typical ones, and then there's some non-typical ones that I'm like, oh wow, I never knew that. One is you are good at really listening to what others have to say, right? Teresa, do you think you're really good at that?
yeah, and I think the second part of it too is that you find that people often come to you with their problems and advice.
Right,
So
right.
that's like, I think the second part of that is that, are you one of those people that you're like, oh, why does everyone always come to me? They have
Right.
problems.
And
And it's because
it's
because they know that you're an empathetic person. They know that when they come to you, you're attentive and you're
right,
listening instead of quickly brushing people off. So
right,
I'm sure we all have those people in our lives that, we go to them with a problem and they're like,
right,
oh yeah, but listen to me because
right.
this, oh, I know, but listen to me. And it's like, wow, like I came to you for some advice and you're just like, shrugging it off. So
Right.
if you're one of those people that are really there and attentive and listening, then those people, they find you, those ones who need some help because they're energetically, you're giving off something that says, you can come to me.
Here's a couple of other ones. One is that you often feel overwhelmed by tragic events. So we were just talking about, getting up close and personal with the earthquake disaster in Turkey, right? Where
Mhm.
you, Teresa, we were kind of like brought into it in dramatic fashion a few weeks ago, and both of us were kind of getting overwhelmed. I mean, it was like really emotional for both of us, right?
Mhm, mhm. And I'll say that it's often we can tie this into those that find it hard to watch the news
Oh,
and listen
right,
to the radio, right? So in my
right.
circles, I work with a lot of empaths and coaches and healers, and a lot of them say the same thing that they don't,
Hmm.
listen to the news because it's hard. Because
Right.
this is you feel exactly, what those people are feeling because again, energetically, we're all one. So if that's you, you're probably empathetic.
Right. Here's one that I thought was interesting. You sometimes feel drained or overwhelmed in social situations. Hmm.
Hmm.
Now I get electric in those. How about you? You're an extrovert like me, right, Teresa?
No,
A little bit.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm a good blend of both.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a good blend of both. But yeah, I would agree because again, energetically, we can feel what's happening in the room. So we
Right.
can feel whether the energy in the space is a positive or negative one. And it can either drain you or energize you, depending
Right.
on who's in that space. And we need to
Right.
be conscious of that because being a happiness coach, it's important for us to always check in with ourselves. And that if we've had interactions with
Mm.
particular people, is
Right.
to ask ourselves, do I feel good when I leave the presence of those people? Do they leave me feeling happy? Do I feel energized? Do I feel motivated? Or do I feel drained? Do I
You
feel
know,
like they've lowered my energy?
I'm so girl, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes people equate empathy as just something purely positive, and that
Mhm.
it's always just positive. And you're bringing up a point around, there you can be too empathetic, right? Where um you don't set boundaries with other people, and that people are always looking for um validation from people, and people who are naturally empathetic, those people will come to.
Mhm.
Well, what if it's during a situation at which maybe you're needing your own support system, because you may be going through things, and though you want to support this other person at that time, you just go into what could be maybe like a people pleaser kind of role, which is, could be part of that, where you're overly empathetic. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, that because you lend your energy. So
Hmm.
if we think of like positive and negative, if someone's coming to you in a lower vibrational state because of the emotions that they're feeling,
Mm, mm,
and then here you are high vibrational, now
right,
you're coming together, and I have felt this, that
right,
I cannot hang out with certain people because they're like energy vampires,
right,
because they come and they're like, oh, every time I spend time with you I feel so much better. I'm like, yeah, because you've
right,
literally
right, right. Exactly.
like sucked a whole bunch of my energy from me. And now, and that's, it's important again for you to be aware, because when I leave the presence of those people that are my friends, right? So I
Right,
do lend myself, but then I have to go and do all of, I go back to my happiness toolkit, and I have to re-energize. It's like plugging, your battery back in to juice up again, because
right,
it's true. And so
right,
thank you for bringing that up, that it's, as an empath, that we have to be consciously aware that we're refueling
right.
our batteries, our energy, because that can happen.
What you're talking about is, just so that people know, is what's called empathy fatigue, where when you're constantly exposed and you don't set boundaries for yourself, and you're constantly being exposed to like stressful or traumatic events, or people are coming to you and they have this really like lower vibration energy, which we all go through. I mean, we have lives of peaks and valleys, right? That you as an empath can can end up in a situation where you're even physically, sick from this stuff. And so it's important to make sure that you're setting those boundaries, everybody. Listen, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some tips around how you can start a deeper practice of empathy today. We'll be right back in about, 2 minutes. Hi there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, There are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. Hey, we are back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. This is Brian Westley Johnson, and I'm joined today by my co-host Teresa Greco, and we're talking about the unique power of empathy. But we wanted to make sure that you got some tips on how you can start a regular practice of empathy today. So, Teresa, do you have a regular practice of empathy? Do you kind of like do things to kind of make sure that you're staying on top of this?
No, I don't. It's not like for me, empathy is not like a gratitude practice that maybe
Yeah.
you have to put some time apart to
Mhm.
focus on all the good things. I mean,
Mhm.
because also gratitude is become something that I do all day long too. It's
Yeah.
just a habitual thing. So empathy is not something I set aside time to, let me strengthen my empathy skills. I think that it is something that's always been a part of who
Mhm.
I am. So I
Mhm.
think that if you are more on the sympathy side, where
Right.
is more where,
Right.
people come to you and you're just like, oh, that's too bad. And then you just kind of move on. Right. Really downplaying people's situations too.
See you later.
Yeah. Or criticizing. Exactly. That, you may find that the detriment is that you actually don't have great relationships with people, that in
Mhm.
order to have solid relationships and ones that bring us happiness is really our ability to connect on this level. And so I think that if you're finding that your relationships are suffering and things are very superficial, right? Oh, how's the weather? Oh, right. And you're like, well, I can't seem to find good friends. Well, it's very possible that you really need to be listening to this next part,
Right.
because these are some of the things that you may want to integrate so that you can have deeper and stronger relationships. And that ultimately leads to us having happier lives, having fulfilling relationships, ones that we have people that we can trust, and there's love between us and those people is really what we should be striving for. And empathy is one of those things that's going to get you there.
Right. Right. Thank you for that. I mean, Teresa, you've been practicing empathy all your life. And I'm glad you brought up that there might be people that might not be in that same place. And so here are a few tips that we'd like to give you. Um, One is, I mean, something that you just said earlier, which is work on listening to people without interrupting, right? That's hard to kind of do. But the power of actually kind of like staying in non-judgment, allowing yourself to listen to the other person. I think one part of this that I think that it's important, especially if you're in a love relationship, is making sure that there's an understanding between you and your partner that you're going to give each other that gift when you're having a discussion. So make sure that you do it in a way like mirror and validation. That's in one that's powerful around this
Mhm.
in terms of like communicating with each other.
Mhm.
That's important that I think everybody needs to kind of like take in, especially again in like romantic relationships. Pay attention to body language and other types of nonverbal communication. I think Teresa, you said something earlier that's part of this, and that is pay attention to it, but don't judge it.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm. And I think the body, I love this point because uh, oftentimes the body can tell us exactly how much in pain that
Right.
person it is, that I
Right.
know that when I was in my bad place, that I didn't talk to anybody.
Right.
So, we're very much taught, I feel like, through our discussion, we're talking about those that have a willingness to share and
Mhm.
have maybe questions and want advice and want, you know, somebody to empathize with them. But what about those that are in such a bad place, in such a
Right.
low point,
Right.
that you actually find it very hard to talk about it, and that we suffer in silence
Yes.
because I didn't want to be judged. I
Mhm.
w I
Mhm.
wanted I wanted people to continue to accept me, and that if they saw some of the and they knew about some of the things that I was struggling with, that maybe I would lose them, I would lose their love, and so I suffered in silence. And so body language, actually can speak louder than words. So
Right.
paying attention to those people that maybe were social people and now aren't. I know that was me. I would retire from social situations and go out to my room or be by myself, and then they'd be like, Teresa, is everything okay? And then I would make up excuses. So thank you for bringing up that point, because
Mhm.
they could really be suffering and be in that place where they don't feel like they can talk about it, for various reasons. So
Mhm.
we should really be paying attention to that.
And I think in addition to that piece is this next tip, which is try to understand people, even when you don't disagree with them. I think a lot of times, even people's body language or nonverbal cues will go into judgment around that, right? As we're listening, it's important to remember that we're all unique people and that understanding people means that maybe some of those cues aren't what you think they mean, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And that you're dealing with that or you're interpreting that from your own pain center, not
mhm,
the other person's.
mhm,
So make sure, again, try to understand them without, even if you don't agree with them, or even if you're feeling as though you might have a judgment about it, let that stuff
mhm,
go.
mhm,
um Ask people questions to learn more about them and their lives. That's another great important one. I mean, this is, so as somebody's expressing something to you about their life situation, ask them questions. Don't ask them to justify, right? Teresa, I know you probably
mhm,
have done that with maybe your coaching and that kind of thing,
mhm.
teaching people not to justify, right?
Mhm, mhm. That sometimes all people really want is someone to listen to them.
Right.
We feel like people come to us and they want an answer. But
Right.
one of the, biggest part of coaching is that a lot of times they just want to be listened to. We all want to be seen and heard. And so when somebody's coming to you, don't feel like you have to come up with some kind of helpful answer to give
Right.
to them when maybe you don't really have one. And
Mhm.
really, in a lot of cases, they're not necessarily looking for you to do that. And then what happens is, and oftentimes then people say, well, it could always be worse. Well, that's not helpful, right? And when someoe's really coming to you suffering, it's not helpful. Although, oftentimes we go to that, or trying to offer a silver lining. We look into the bright side. And when someone's, in the hole, in their dark place, they can't see the bright side.
Right. Listen, we're gonna take a quick break, a really quick break. When we come back, I love this topic. We're gonna go into some final thoughts from both of us about this. We'll be right back.
6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit soulivity.com now.
And we're back with final thoughts. Teresa?
Well, I want to also point out that the last thing you want to do when somebody comes to you is to criticize. So I think that,
Mm,
with parents and children, that can often happen, that they're coming to you, and us being older, and we can empathize with them, but then we go into parent mode, and here they are coming to you being vulnerable,
yeah.
and we're criticizing them for
Right.
their actions, or
Right.
maybe what's contributed to them feeling the way they do, instead of really listening and trying to use that opportunity to ask more probing questions, to learn
Right.
more about your child, more about the situation, instead of going into judgment and criticism. And
Right.
that just makes you feel worse. And I think it's a quick way to lose friends.
Oh, very much so. Right.
Right? That if every time you go to someone, they're criticizing you, you're like, wow.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm, I mean, woo, a very, very, very important point. I think my final thought about this is, um, empathy is not something where you're not without your own power, and that you're giving away, your energy, and you're giving away something that you'll never have, your own time to have support. Um, and so as you're listening to someone, if you're not in a place where you can hear them right then and there, tell them. Just tell them. Be honest. Um, but if you are in a place, be fully present, ask questions, try to put yourself in their shoes, and give that love to them, because at the end of the day, that's what's really going on, that they're asking for love and support from you. And so just remember that. That's my final thought.
Okay, then I would like to have another final thought.
Okay, go for it.
Because
What's
I
next?
wanted to ensure that people know that criticizing is not something they want to do in that moment.
Yep.
But empathy for me is understanding that we're all one, that even though we're in
Nice.
separate bodies, living separate lives on this human playground, going through different experiences that we can't understand,
Yep.
because ultimately we're all living in our own personal, I say my own personal happiness bubble, but in our own bubbles, and a reality that we're creating moment by moment. But true empathy is understanding that there is no separation
Mhm.
between you and the other person,
Yeah.
and that when you help them, you're actually helping yourself, that when you forgive them, you're forgiving yourself, that what we do to others, we are also doing to ourselves. And so when we lend ourselves, as you said, in that support and that love, we are giving it back to ourselves.
Right.
And so that's what I would love to leave, is that remembering that it's important for us to always be helping the human collective in whatever way we can, because we're all part of that, and we all benefit from that love that we share with each other.
Oh, you got me crying over here. No, I think that's so vital to understand that is the true
Mhm.
meaning of empathy, where as someone is sharing and you're putting yourself in that other person's shoes, that you're returning to a place of universal oneness,
Yeah,
that's it, that's where you're going.
yeah.
And so, thank you for that. Thank you,
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you,
Thank
thank you.
you.
This was a great topic, great show today.
Thank you.
Um, we've got a lot of stuff that's coming up in the near future. You've got another Steps to Happiness that's going to be coming up on Thursday, with another great guest. I love this show, Teresa.
Thank
I
you.
really, really, really love this show. The the importance that of different happiness principles that you share are really, really great. And I mean, this past week you had Adam Hart where you guys were talking about having happy relationships. That's available right here at Soulivity TV. I want to remind people to go out and check that out. You've got some things that are coming up as well, in terms of some classes. Can you want to talk about those a little bit?
Right. So one of them is if you're looking to maybe explore becoming a life coach, we're going to have some life coach certification on
Woohoo!
Aspire. So you can take
Woo!
a look at that. And then there is also going to be a Steps to Happiness program as well. And also a mental freedom course.
Wow.
Yes. So there's some exciting things that people definitely want to check out.
It just gets better and better.
And the mental freedom one is really something that they want to check out because it is going to be, well, it's more of a beta version of it. And so people are going to be able to take advantage of that very, very inexpensively.
Wow.
So yes, they definitely want to come to Aspire and take a look at that because it's really just, it's a one-time opportunity to be able to be a part of that. So yeah, they definitely want to take a look.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to have all that information at soulivity.com. Also, want to remind you that there's another great Tammy's Table that's coming up at 12 o'clock today. She's going to always be talking about that grub, gab, and growth, about being resilient, with Tammy Gaines at 12 noon right here at Soulivity TV. Also want to remind you to follow us on social media. And while you're there, join our mailing list by visiting the This Morning Soulivity site at soulivity.com/this morning. We're on social media too, so remember to follow us on social media as well. Gosh, Teresa, it's like parting is such sweet sorrow. It's like, this time always goes too fast.
It really is. It's like when you get together with a good friend and you
I
really
know.
enjoy their company and you just wish it could go on forever. So thank you so much because I feel the same way.
Aw, well, thank you. Well, listen, on behalf of both of us, we want to say thank you for joining us for another great episode of This Morning with Soulivity. We hope that you come back and join us every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast, or you can listen Thursdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific on KMET 1490 AM for all of you out on the West Coast. Listen, until next time, keep on having real conversations that empower you with passion and purpose. And you better go ahead on and create that good old high life of quality living today. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.